All right, everybody. Well, we will go ahead and get going. I want to be respectful of everybody's time on a Monday evening. So first of all, thank you for scheduling an hour on a Monday evening to come hang out with us and learn a little bit more about the PLA process and credit for prior learning and what that looks like. We definitely want to get you started for your term on the right foot. So hopefully you will glean some important information tonight as we move forward. For those of you I haven't met, my name is Tara McKinley. I am the program director for the OLO program as well as the healthcare leadership track. So I will be kind of the MC tonight, be running the slideshow, but I am joined by a team from the program. So you met me. Also on the call tonight, we have Dr. Matt Bergman, who is kind of a powerhouse of PLA with the program and around the country. So he's going to give you a great intro. Tammy Albers is on the call. She is a program alum and she teaches our Lead 300 class now. So she is a great resource who has been through this process. So you'll hear from her as well. Maybe, there we go. We also have Roger Busco on the call. He is one of our Lead 300 instructors. So he'll give you a little bit more overview of the course and what that looks like for the Lead 300 students. You'll hear from me again for the healthcare leadership folks taking Lead 307. We also have Colonel Janet Holliday on the call. She is an Army representative and is here to talk again about more details for those folks coming with Army transcripts and military transcripts and experience. And then I wanted to introduce you to Dr. Randy Whetstone. If you have not met him, he is the program co-director. I'm not sure if he's going to join us tonight at all or not, but now you have a face to put with a name because I'm sure you'll hear from him throughout your time in the program. We also have two program alumni on the call. Amy Moore and Tyler Wood are joining us. They are going to talk a little bit more about their experiences and share bits and pieces from their portfolios just to give you a little bit more of an inside look about what the process for getting that credit for prior learning involves. So in the next hour or so, we're going to cover these topics. I will tell you the session is recording and that recording will be available to you. So don't feel like you need to necessarily frantically take notes. Susan and I will be keeping an eye on the chat, which reminds me her picture was not on here. Susan Hildebrand is on the call. She is our program recruiter and is a fantastic career resource for students. So like I said, she and I will be keeping an eye on the chat. So you're welcome to ask questions in there as the session goes through. So we will talk all about prior learning, credit for prior learning, what it is, what that looks like within our program. Like I said, you'll hear from some program alumni about their experience and any tips and suggestions they might have for you. And then, as usual, we suggest you stay till the end. We will be doing a drawing for some U of L swag for those of you who joined us tonight. So be sure you stay on until the end. So with that, are there any questions before we get rolling tonight? Nope. Okay. So with that, I have control of the slides. So as you guys present, I'll try to follow along, or you can just make a note to move on to the next one. But Matt, you are up first.
All right. So thank you all for dedicating some time to come to our session, the synchronous session. As you know, all of your program courses are either in person in the evenings or completely online in asynchronous format, meaning you can do it whenever it fits your life. So we do this to truly kind of connect with your life and make sure we can create the most efficient path to graduation. And one of the key factors and the real big draws for this program is specifically credit for prior learning or prior learning assessment. In essence, all this is, it's hard to really understand simply because you've had a lot of experiences, and we're going to translate that into college credit. Prior learning assessment is college level and credit-worthy learning that is translated into academic credit from outside the confines of the college walls. So we are going to look at ways to extract pieces and parts of your life and turn them into academic credit to create efficiency to graduation. So in essence, we want to get you to graduation faster by acknowledging and valuing what you've done in the workforce or in your even community type of work, even with your church, we are going to find ways to translate that into academic credit. So that comes through occupational experience, which is more experiential learning. It is harder and more abstract to define, or occupational training, where you actually sit down in a classroom or in some sort of online format and have seated hours where you get particular training with your industry or with military. So both of those approaches are evaluated, assessed in our ELFH, or excuse me, our LEAD 300 class, which is called Prior Learning Assessment. And we're going to evaluate and really look at exactly what you need to graduate so that we work smarter, not harder. So we're going to look at everything you've done within your academic credit as well as your career and create the most efficient path with your effort in this particular 3 credit hour class. We use the online format via ONET, which is the Occupational Network. And you're going to love this database because it really gives you a really inside look at particular jobs that you have. It gives you language around the work that's done, the job description, a job zone of what level of education it requires, and average salary for that particular role. So you can use that to help articulate what you've learned, what you know, and have that evaluated. The APA, American Psychological Association, is the format we use for academic writing in our College of Education and Human Development. That is not something we love as faculty members. Some of us really enjoy that, very good at that. Others are like, we know these are professional students, we'll help you work through that. Don't worry about that. We're gonna give you some templates to work from, and we'll help you navigate that without too much pain and suffering. We also have the HAT, which is the Hallmark Assessment Task. Basically, this is your major assignment or major work product from each class. You'll have one in each of the 12 classes in the major, and we'll make sure that these culminate in some deliverables in our 540 class, which is a program exit, where you basically, Professor Busco really shows you how to make what you learn come to life in a practicum assignment. And last but not least, Folio Tech is a free electronic system that we use as a repository for all the Hallmark assessment tasks so that we can do aggregate evaluation as a college to make sure people are meeting those standards. So next slide. We have a ton of acronyms here, and I don't want you to get overwhelmed by these, but just know that as you go forward, we're going to just help you with these to understand them and make them kind of part of your common vernacular or common understanding. The student transfer evaluation is something that you've already done. Once you get admitted, we do an evaluation of all your academic credit and try and give you as much academic credit towards your degree. But don't worry, if for some reason some of your classes, when you got them evaluated by the Transfer Evaluation Service, were not given credit, don't worry. They don't love you there. We're going to love you in the program. We're going to pull that back in via academic credit for during our portfolio process in prior learning assessment. Joint services transcript, for those in the military, you understand exactly what that is. That is an evaluation of all your military training, and that is articulated via the American Council on Education, the ACE. KSA is knowledge, skills, and abilities. CCAF, community college, the Air Force, work specialization credit. These are terms, work specialization that we use in the class. Strut is the platform alongside Blackboard that we use for students. And then last but not least, lower level and upper level learning. We try to look at your experiences via training or experiential learning and translate that into a freshman sophomore class or a junior senior level class. And we're going to help you navigate that process to understand if it's a lower level or an upper level class. Generally, that's pretty easy to understand simply because if you need a ton of training before you can actually engage in this higher level training, it's kind of like taking a freshman sophomore training and then you reach up to the junior senior level training. So think of it that way as you kind of categorize that in the class. So don't get nervous about this. We're going to help you navigate this entire process in this 3 credit hour class, and we're going to help you get from 9 to 48 college credit hours towards your degree. So what does that translate to? 3 classes, bye-bye, or possibly 16 college classes eliminated from your requirements to get to graduation. So we want to maximize that based upon what you've already accomplished in your career and in your academic life. So if you have very few college credits, we're going to maximize the portfolio credits as much as possible. If you have a ton of college credits, we don't worry about it as much. We work a little smarter and the class is a little easier for you. But just remember, if the class is hard and you get a lot of credits, you're not paying for those. So every single one of those college credits that you get from the portfolio process are free. They are transcripted onto your transcript. They are put into your repository of academic credits for free. So we're not going to charge you for those things. Almost every institution across the country requires fees for those credits to be posted. So just know that. We're going to do this based upon your learning from prior college or occupational training, and I use it as an example. Is like you go into Target or you go into Walmart and you have that claw machine on the side there. There's a bunch of stuffed animals in there. That's your life. We're going to go with that claw machine and we're going to pull out little bears and little minions and little Batmans of your life and put those into the formats that we require so that you have academic credit to really increase the pace to graduation. So all you have to do from this moment until you start this class is just make sure you've met with your advisor to understand how we're going to work smarter, not harder. We're going to identify exactly what you need for total college credits. And then what we're going to do is dig into your life. So if you have pieces and parts, a binder, like an I Love Me binder, where you have all these certificates, you have all this documented evidence of your learning, an industry training transcript, pull all of that stuff out and just have it ready. And we're going to extract all of those pieces and parts and put them into a nice puzzle that will translate into a faster pace to graduation. So we guarantee that once you've taken this class and you put in the hard work to identify, to evaluate, and to articulate what you've learned that is college level and credit worthy, you will graduate much faster. For some of you, 3 or 4 more classes. Some of you, up to 16 college classes are just gone because of the knowledge and the value that you bring to the academic setting. So again, we are going to do APA writing. Don't worry about this stuff. We have training, we have forms, we have templates, and we're going to help you navigate the process to create uniformity and consistency as well as using the appropriate type of citations as you are using ideas or thoughts from particular areas. You want to make sure that you cite those appropriately. So this overview, Roger, I think, are you going to take over here? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you've heard enough from me. Now hear from this beautiful man that has taught this class a million times. I talk about it from big overarching perspective because I'm out all over the country saying, like, we have to do more of this at all these colleges across the country. More than there are hundreds and hundreds of universities that are adopting PLA right now. They are putting this into their curriculum, and we've been in on the front end of this for over 30 years. So more and more institutions are adopting this, but we are out on the front end of this because we've lived it, we've breathed it, and we've done very well. We worked with a lot of military, and that's helped us translate into industry. So just know that we know how to do this, and you're going to learn from one of the best right here with Roger Buskell.
Well, I'm certainly glad you're here tonight. The course that we have some of our faculty that teach the course online, including Matt himself. This is a labor of love. We really enjoy getting to know the students entering our program, and we actually get to know a lot about you. That's one of the things that as faculty we get out of it also. But we do use a platform called Blackboard, or if you're in the healthcare, they'll use Strut also. And this is called a learning management system. And if you look on the left side, most of the course Blackboard shells that the instructors use are very similar. The default page is the announcements. One thing about the announcements, we'll put those out at least weekly, if not more, probably more as the semester first starts. But we will repeat those as emails. So it's really important for you to start checking your U of L email, because these announcements are automatically sent to your emails also. So you can click that on your phone and you think, oh my gosh, I need to go look at that right now. You can take a look at the Blackboard and go from there. So that's just one of the things that we'll do here. But if you look on the left side, those are the different menu options that you'll see. There was the tab for the syllabus, more about faculty information, or on the announcements page. And when we usually have, in some form or fashion, we'll publish the assignment due dates, which is really important for us. We all know when things are due. And then there's sections for lesson materials, which I want to get through in just a minute. And then we have a section called Folio Tech, and that's where you'll upload your hat paper that you write. But also Folio Tech is the repository for a portfolio that you will create. And this is what we use to help determine your prior learning credit that you're awarded. So everything, all of the worksheets that you will be providing for us, or you prove that your credit, all of this experience and training is credit worthy, is put on this portfolio. Most of the time we'll use some form or fashion extra from the normal emails and the announcements. Most of us are using Microsoft Teams now, which is what you're on now. We usually have some type of weekly or more gathering with you on Teams, so that we can keep in good contact. You'll have a blog, because what you're going to do there is share your hat that you write to the other students to get feedback. And what that does is it forces everyone to use a different part of their brain. In other words, you're going to have to review your fellow student's hat and make some suggestions for improvement. So therefore, you really have to know what you're talking about. So it's part of a learning experience also. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, so they're laid out in lessons. All of the learning content that you will be using are laid out in lessons, and it's typically 10 lessons, whether it's an 8-week class, a 10-week summer class, or even a 16-week class. They're divided out into 10 lessons. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So this is typically what a lesson 1 looks like. There's a lesson overview, and it gives us the contents of what's going to happen during that lesson. It'll give the lesson objectives. And in this first lesson, lesson 1, it's pretty basic. We're going to get to learn the systems and a little bit about the PLA assessment itself. And we'll discuss the leadership and learning program features. There's assigned readings almost every week, and in this first lesson, this is the textbook from Colvin, and you'll read chapters 1 through 4 and appendix 2. This is the supporting information that you will need as we go through these particular lessons. And then there will be the lecture itself. So let's go to the next slide. So on the rest of it, it'll give the introduction to the course in this case, and it'll be a PowerPoint or a video. They support each other. In fact, they're the same information, one in PowerPoint format and one in video format. If you view it in PowerPoint, you want to make sure that you view it in notes pages, because that's the exact same information that's the audio portion of the video. So it's about, depending upon your style that you learned from best, you can use one or both even. There's usually a discussion board for each lesson for the topic for that particular week. And then the lessons themselves are going to be where you upload your product are going to be in blue. In other words, if you click on scavenger hunt, there's where you're going to upload a file that you would have created according to the scavenger hunt template. So all of the assignments are listed, where you turn in your assignments are going to be in blue text. Okay, next slide. Well, I guess I finished. Okay, I thought I had another one. Okay, so we'll let Dr. McHenley take over now.
Sure. Yeah, if you have any concluding thoughts, you're welcome to wrap up. No, okay. All right. So like I said, Elizabeth Krause teaches Lead 307. She was unable to join us tonight. 307 is the prior learning assessment class for healthcare leadership students. Elizabeth has been teaching that class forever. She's a great resource for you guys. I did want to give a little bit of a separate overview because we in healthcare leadership, we use the Strut learning management platform generally instead of Blackboard. In 307, they use both Strut and Blackboard. That's just because for our Flex students, that Strut platform is a little better at handling the student-paced, competency-based learning. So you'll have materials in both. So this is what Strut will look like for you. You can access Strut directly. That link should be available to you. It's also available in the Lead 307 Blackboard shell. All the materials for your hat, as far as the templates and things that Dr. Bergman and Professor Buskell talked about, are available in both places, so you can find them either or. Maybe if my mouse will work, there we go. So generally for healthcare leadership students, all of our correspondence and communication will happen in Strut, and then you'll end up just submitting your final hat in Blackboard. So Strut does have a weekly check-in feature. This is really your main source of communication with your instructor. Like I said, Elizabeth is available at all times. She's really great about responding and providing help for you. But you'll find this check-in feature really as a way to make sure you're staying on track. For those of you in the term option with an 8-week course, it can seem like a lot of work that you're getting done in 8 weeks. And really for the 300 and the 307 students, it's really important to maintain that weekly process and not let a lot of that work and portfolio and writing build up to the last minute. So this is what, like Roger said, this is what the menu in the Blackboard course looks like. You will see the tabs here that are circled to prepare and submit all of your documentation for your credit for prior learning. And that will be graded, like I said, in both places for you. So, sorry, I just want to make sure I'm covering everything. So like I said, you kind of, this class will straddle that line between learning management systems a little bit. Your instructors and classmates will be great resources for you. And there will be plenty of guidance along the way through those announcements and check-ins with your instructor there. So like I say, I'm happy as we move forward to take any questions about healthcare specifically. I know there are quite a few kind of industry specific training and experience modules that happen in healthcare that are different from a lot of other industries. And so we really try to help you take advantage of those in ways that you might not just in the Lead 300 class. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tammy Albers to talk about some tips for the PLA course.
Hello. As they said earlier, I graduated from this program. And so I've been in your shoes and I have walked your walk. And so I can tell you that there's 3 things I would tell you that you need to set up in order to make sure that you're successful. First is establish your support system. Your friends and family are going to be there to support you. They're going to be your cheerleaders. So just establish that going in. Have somebody you can rely on, because as you're juggling the balls that it takes to finish the course, be a mom, be a wife, and things like that, things are going to drop even though we don't want them to. I would also encourage you to get to know your fellow students. They're also going to be your resource. They're going to be the person that you can have look at a paper you write, or that you can have look at your assignment, check in with each other, make sure you're right. The next thing I would say is communicate, communicate, communicate. It's very important with your instructors as well, because we want you to be successful. We want to be your cheerleader, and we can't help you if you don't communicate. I know most professors hold open office hours. I have them twice a week, and I'm just out there hanging out on Teams. So if you need to ask a quick question or get some clarification, communicate. If you're having trouble finishing an assignment, or if you need an extension, communicate that to us, and we will do everything in our power to make sure that we can accommodate that and make sure you're successful. So that's my 3 tips to make sure the course is successful.
Great. Thank you, Tammy. I'm going to switch it over now to Colonel Holiday.
Thanks, Tara. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm sorry, my camera's not working this evening. Okay, so this is specifically for the military students. If the others want to tune out for a minute, sorry about my dog barking in the background. I would advise you right now, before the class actually starts, go ahead and submit your JST, your Joint Services Transcript, for transfer evaluation. If you haven't done that yet, get a copy of it for yourself, and then get a copy of your student transfer evaluation from ULink. Make sure you keep track of any classes that did not transfer into credit for U of L, because you may be able to use those for occupational learning credit. If you happen to have been in the Air Force, submit your CCAF transcript for evaluation, get a copy for yourself, and get your STE. Now, you may have some other additional military training that did not translate into ACE approved credits. I'm thinking of things like Master Fitness course, maybe some of the leadership schools. So make sure you have transcripts for those, certificates of completion, whatever you need to prove that you actually took the course. And make sure you can document the length of the training, the number of credit hours, and the level of the training. Can you go to the next slide, please? So even more important than your military training in terms of getting credit for your degree will be your military experience, the time you spent in a job. So those of you who worked in lower level positions, say E1 to E5, that will most likely earn you occupational experience at the lower level. Okay, there's lower level credits and upper level credits. So for every year you spent in one of those ranks working in a job, you should be eligible for 2 credit hours for every year. And then if you worked in a higher level position, and this is general, this is not absolute, say E6 to E9 or officer ranks, you'll most likely earn occupational experience at an upper level, and you'll get 4 credit hours for 1 year of work. And that's for a maximum of 18 credit hours. So make sure you can document all of your work experience through your evaluations, through your orders, awards, anything you have that can prove where you were and what you were doing at any given time. Okay, next slide. All right, I will turn it over to Amy.
Can you hear me okay? Okay. So I was part of the Healthcare Leadership Track program. It was back in 2019 and I finished in 2020. One of the major points that I'd like to bring up is that it took me twice as long to get my associate's degree than it did my bachelor's degree. And that's basically, that's unheard of. With this program, it really teaches you a lot about, the portfolio itself teaches you about the level and degree of mastery of knowledge and skills and just abilities that you have acquired in your prior work experience. I know that I had 7 years of work experience, and that knocked off, a lot of credits that I had to pay for. It saved me a lot of time and a lot of money. That's a really big deal, especially coming from me because I'm a full-time mom, a full-time employee, a full-time student, still a full-time student. But yeah, it took me a lot longer to finish the first degree than this one. And, also something that Susan drills into my head all the time, still to this day, is that a big part of kind of growing in your career is showcasing, your competencies to employers. And so that's really, super important, especially when it comes to like competition in the workforce. So this program kind of gave me all of that. And just with my experience in the PLA, it took me quite a lot longer than most people to do this particular class. I flew through the rest of them. So I really pride, everyone on having, kind of a meeting about this and kind of giving you the, the background and the details to go through with it. Because I kind of went in blind and it kind of took me by surprise, especially with the strut. But once you navigate it, it's so easy. And, like Tara said, I really believe that the check-ins are very, very important. That is your main source of communication. It never took longer than 24 hours for, someone to get back with me with a question. And that was really helpful. I guess I'll let Tyler talk now, and then we can show examples. I'm not sure how we're doing that.
That's right. We'll figure it out. Hi everyone. I'm Tyler Wood. I took the OL path and same time as Amy did, but graduated in 2020 as well. I will tell you, it's a really good program to be in, and I'm not saying that as a cliche statement just because I'm on here, but I mean when I tell you I've never had a better educational experience in my life, I'm not lying. But it's going to take some time. Setting expectation, it's going to take time, it's going to take some effort, but the benefit that you're going to get from that is tenfold. I mean, back to the beginning with Dr. Bergman talking about the cost savings and the time savings. I mean, would you work a little bit harder to save $14,000 potentially, and also cut a year off of your schooling for your bachelor's degree? I mean, that's an easy question answered. So what my biggest takeaway from it is, one is not only spend the time and getting to really understand what all you've done in your life, whether it's experience, military experience, licensure and certification, but to really dig deeper into that on a moral level, because what you all have done in your life, no matter how small or large you think it is, it matters. It's not just the piece of paper. It's not just being on paper. Like, you've done a lot. And I think that's something you've got to understand, because you're going to get a little bit, I like to call it that swagger. You get a little bit of swagger and you go in there and you write a lot of this information. You go through and you're selling yourself. Almost like you're going to a job interview, you're selling yourself. So when you're going and you're looking at your specialization credit on what will count towards lower level and upper level, you've really got to dig deep and be like, you know what? Yeah, I did do that. And it was worth college credit. Heck yeah, it was. And again, you've got a really good support system. I know for myself, my family and friends, and just like Amy, full-time parent, full-time student at the time, and then a full-time employee as well. But you've got a really good system at the school. And I know I can speak for myself and probably Amy as well, and most of the alumni board that we're on, that anybody is willing to help. And that's one of the reasons why we're here, is because it makes sense, because we've been there, and we've been there pretty recently. And it dawned on us like, well, if we had somebody during that time that had just went through it, or went through it more recently, I would have loved for somebody to have been like, Tyler, chill out, you'll be okay. It's fine. Here's what we're gonna do. Here's what you need to do. Not necessarily hold my hand, but just kind of give me a pep talk, just because it is a lot of work. But again, the benefit from it is just far more than what you can think of. And I went from this program actually into a healthcare HR leadership role without being in the HR or the healthcare leadership track. So, I mean, by doing this program, it's going to open a lot of doors open and a lot of opportunity for you. And again, we're here to help from on the alumni side as much as we can.
All right, so Amy and Tyler have very graciously offered to share bits and pieces of their portfolios with you so you can get a little bit of a better idea of what that work looks like. I don't know if you guys worked out the details of who's going first and exactly what's happening, but I will let you all share.
We probably should have done that beforehand, but that's okay. Amy, I don't know what you would like to do, because you're gonna have a little bit of differences because of the healthcare leadership track, right? So
Yeah, so sorry.
I was gonna say
tried
I've
to,
got stuff pulled up too, so whatever you want to share on your end, and I'll just kind of follow behind you.
okay. Tara, do I just press request control?
I have stopped sharing, so you should have a share button
Okay,
at
gotcha.
the top now.
Okay, give me just a second.
So as you're looking at what she puts up on the screen, if you have specific questions, feel free to raise your hand or turn your mic on, or just type into the chat and just ask us questions or ask Amy or Tyler directly. But we'll have the questions answered for you, and just know that at least you're seeing a little window into what you put together.
Can anyone see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay.
Dalton, go ahead.
Hi, yes, I was wondering, throughout the process of the course, will individual things that we were offered during our not academic careers, such as programs like ADP, courses of that nature, also be applicable to the portfolios we create?
Absolutely. The answer is yes. Anyone else want to chime in on that? Yeah, we're going to look at, oftentimes when you have 15 hours of contact in a training, we translate that generally into 1 college credit hour. So for each accumulating amount of hours of contact, we try to translate that into academic credit.
Thank you.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
We can see it now.
So I don't have my entire portfolio, but I just wanted to go over a few things, such as like these are CEUs. I'm sure that a lot of different places, like organizations, do these, but healthcare always has them. Basically, every profession in healthcare has continuing education courses, and for my particular certification, I had to have 150 points every 5 years to keep my certification. So, and it was 1 point per contact hour, which meant that came to 30 hours each year. So, like, these are a bunch of CEUs that I had to do, at work, and either we would do them virtually on a meeting, kind of like this, or someone would come into our department and do things like this. I was a sterile tech. For many years. And so that's what I did there. And then we had like these things, like this is one that is from like someone coming in and, doing a presentation for us on like, how to do some different things with instrumentation. And so a lot of that training I got to use for my PLA. And then like performance evaluations, like I'm not gonna like keep that up there long because I don't want people to read about me, but that's kind of something that I used. And then like this was education competency. So these are different things, like it shows here the time spent. And so after I did all of this, I ended up, I'm not exactly sure how many credit hours I ended up with, but I'm pretty sure I ended up with the max amount because I also took some ED2Go courses just to finish up because I was lacking a few hours, and it turned out to be a little different, but I did it, on something like this. And then here, this isn't the actual website, as you can see, because it's kind of messed up, but this is like the thing, like they were talking about ONET. So this is the ONET site. And this was my, in particular, profession. That's what it fell under. I can't remember like the rating scale and everything with it, but I got a lot of the information from here. And like they said earlier, there's like the wages, just different context of the job, different credentials that are needed and things like that. And then I thought there was one more thing that I wanted to show you. Maybe not. Maybe it's not on here. Yeah, so that just kind of gives you an idea of like things like you think that you might not be able to use, but actually you really can. And so I would definitely look into, anything that you have training wise and see if it applies to the program. And chances are at some point, you can bring it over.
Right, now I'll share my screen. So I've got my hat and I'm gonna pull that up. Just so that way everybody can take a look at it. It's gonna look busy, but trust me, it's not as bad as you think. All right, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
So like mentioned earlier, I had both Tammy and Roger. So again, both very helpful with any questions from start to finish. So I had my hat. The majority of my professional career has been in treasury and financial services. So essentially what's happening here is you're kind of starting it out like a resume. And it's actually, it is going to be most of your resume, your professional experience. So you'll see a lot of banking at the time there. And I think you can go back so long, maybe 10 years, and correct me if I'm wrong. But really, and this is one thing that I kind of told myself, again, I'm a hype man by nature, I think. Maybe a coach, that's more professional term. But the life learning narrative. So when you're doing this, you're changing your narrative, you're telling your narrative, you're selling yourself. So kind of going through and saying who you are, your introduction, why you're doing this, why you should get the credit that you're requesting. And again, going back to thinking what Amy said, that you'll want to look at any and everything. Don't just add it on there just because you think you can. I don't know. I cut down branches off a tree once, and it qualifies as lower level credit. But again, because you're going to have to really exploit that more and dive deeper into it. But again, you got to think of anything and everything, because it really will help if you can find and make it work. But going through like your concrete experience, again, kind of part of the narrative of what you were trying to accomplish while you're going through this. And you're going to go through each and every thing on your resume. So for me, I had not only financial and treasury experience, I also held different securities licenses. So my Series 6, 63 life and annuity. So those counted, which were nice because those were things that I studied for and used every day of my life and had CEUs, just like Amy did in the hospital. And then you're going to go through and do a reflection. I'm sure everybody who's written a paper at the end, either you've done a reflection paper specifically or you've done like a conclusion. This is essentially a piece of that. KSAs is one of those acronyms that you'll learn. I found myself after doing it that I said knowledge, skills, and abilities quite a bit. You'll want to get pretty keen on that because it is an important part of the whole PLAT experience. And then just kind of going into your conclusion and wrapping it up. And then, of course, making sure that you cite correctly because that is very important. Let me see if I can show one more thing. I've got so this is the justification essay. So this is going through all the credit that you are going to be requesting. So like I mentioned, I held different securities licenses. So it's going to be by a total of hours, and those hours are going to translate into how many credits that you'd be seeking to gain. So for example, my Series 6, it's a cumbersome exam, but again, a lot of training went into it, and I held that for a variety of years. But a description of the training itself and how you actually obtain that license, licensure or certification, and then also specific learning that you had from that, based on the table. And I can't remember the actual table verbatim, but again, those hours that you've spent into it are going to equate to some numerical form of credit hours, whether it's lower level or upper level. So again, you're going to have to put some work into it, but again, it's so worth it. I think I got a maximum of 24 hours, and that was really all I needed. And I can't speak for everybody, so I can't tell you that you're going to get the maximum too. But again, if you put the time and the effort into it, then it will most definitely work towards your advantage. But also too, again, I'm more than welcome to help any way that I can. If anything, give you a pep talk. I'm usually pretty good at those. And I saw it in the chat that somebody had asked for contact information, and the alumni board actually has a specific page on U of L's site to where you can reach out to us via email.
So just a follow-up on Tyler's point and several of the documents shared. So we use forms that you can fill in, and then you provide the validating documents, basically proving that you did what you said in that form, and then we award that credit. So it's just a matter of articulating what you've done and then having some proof of that, and then we start to put the pieces and parts together in your portfolio.
Awesome. Amy and Tyler, thank you for sharing. Before you leave, too quickly, do you want to talk about, you hit on some of these 5 tips, but if you have any other tips you want to share with our audience, that would be fantastic.
I will certainly share that tip 1 is the very most important. If you manage your time wisely, like we said, you can get through this program rather quickly. And I was a flex student, so I went through it very quickly, and it took a lot of sitting down and managing time, especially whenever you're a full-time employee and full-time mother, full-time parent in general. You really have to sit down and schedule time to sit down and work on this. And if you do, it'll definitely be it'll be beneficial.
Yeah, echoing that, managing your time in your day before it manages you is super important. I think I've talked about it quite a bit, but tip number 5 especially, it's going to look like a lot, it's going to feel like a lot. Sometimes you're just going to have to get up and just kind of walk away for a minute and just come back, collect your thoughts. Because the last thing any of us want to do, the last thing you would want for yourself too, is to get so frustrated that you decide to drop out of the program. When you have, again, just a super support system, and kind of reverting back to tip 3, ask your leaders, ask anybody for help, whether it be your peers, whether it be any of the professor. I couldn't tell you when I was going through and trying to get my documents, how many emails I had to to Tammy probably freaking out because that's how I was. But again, it's going to be okay. And once you're done with it, you have accomplished such a great deal, and you should be super proud of yourself.
Yeah. And that's what we find from a lot of our students is that the minute you finish, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm really impressive. Look at what I've done. And I just want to address a couple of comments in the chat. And that is first from Sandy from the early childhood. Know that we have faculty that are specifically posted in that area of expertise that will support you, but the 300 class is the same for everybody. What you're going to look at is all of those trainings, all those continuing education, all of those things that you've done in early childhood that we can translate back. And many of the students that have started in that track have already done a lot of that legwork, so they can support you on the backside and help you navigate that process of how to extract and pull together all those continuing ed pieces from the early childhood. And then Michael, on your active duty service, you have 20 years and you have all of this JST credit, and it is translated on your student transfer evaluation. That's great. You're going to get all those credits. However, you're going to get potentially additional credits to fill the gap via the military, beyond the military courses. So things that haven't necessarily been evaluated by ACE will still also potentially translate into additional college credits. So we're going to find every way in every industry to pull in college credit and really accentuate the fact that we're getting you to graduation more efficiently so that you're not taking elective classes. We're done with elective classes. We're focusing on what you've learned, what you've experienced, what have you accumulated, and we're going to get you to graduation efficiently.
Oh, yeah, this is Roger. Just another comment. I don't think the education plan has been mentioned yet, but you have that available through your advisor. And that's where you should really start, because it's going to tell you exactly how many college credits at the upper and lower level that you can go for. I suggest try to do as much as you can through the training method. It's usually a little bit easier when you go through the job experience method. It's certainly great to do that, but you might have to do a little bit more writing. But I would start with the education plan, because you can't request more credits and receive those than what's on the education plan.
The other thing I will mention too is you do have the ability to one-time submit an amendment for additional credit hours. So if you go through LEAD 300 or 307 and you don't necessarily get the number of credit hours you need to fulfill your 120 per your education, 120 credit hours per your education plan, any additional training and experience and that kind of thing that happens during your tenure as a student here, you can go back and submit that and try to make up some of the difference in those credit hours.
Yeah, this is Roger. One note about that: you should start planning that in your last semester. Prior to your last semester, you're going to be given another update through advising, just to make sure you know what you need. So if you need those 3 more credit hours, let's say you've been on a job for another year. If it's taken you a year to get through the program, if it's a lower level job, that's 2 more credit hours at the lower level. If it's an upper level job, it's 4 more credit hours. So don't forget about the planned resubmission process.
But also don't worry about the plaid resubmission process, because very few people have to do an amendment. We're going to get you done in this class, most likely, unless you're super young and you don't have a huge amount of professional experience. If you don't have a ton, you are going to grow older with each year and have more experiences. And we can go back via amendment there. But don't worry about that too much. We've got your back and we're going to help you. Thank goodness for Tyler and Amy. Gosh, you guys have gone through it. You know the deal. And when you share that with the students, we understand that that's the most important piece. So we're going to have access to our fellow peers and alumni so that you can use them as a sounding board when you're going through the process.
Thank you, everybody. We do have a couple of minutes left for any questions that didn't necessarily get answered in the chat. The team has been fantastic at staying on top of those. But if anybody has any last minute questions, we can take a couple of those and then we'll do the giveaway drawing right before 8 o'clock.
Hi.
Hi, go ahead.
Hi, this is Derek Dennis, and I'm set up for the fall for the online learning and healthcare. I have a unique situation. Just transferred from Bellarmine. I came in with 117 credits. They accepted 116. I know that you guys are not just going to give me 4 hours and let me graduate with a U of L degree. I know it's not that easy. So I'm trying to see, and I've been a first responder for 14 years as an EMT. So bring the experience, have the credits. Where do I fall in that? Because some people say I may not have much of a need for the credits that other folks who would need maybe 30 or 40 credits to kind of get them a little further along than I am. So
yeah, that's correct. You don't have the need that other people have. We're not going to look as deep into your experience because you already have 116 credit hours. So we're going to really focus in on getting your portfolio done very efficiently and taking those other 11 classes and graduating you. So this process is going to be way more truncated for you than many people because of the crazy amount of academic credit you already have.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Nope. Okay.
Dr. McKinley, there's a quick question from Dalton that I answered, but I would love for the PLA instructors to also just, double up behind me. His question initially was, let me roll back up to it.
Yeah, about
what
the
if some of your
amicable, less than amicable, totally understandable. And that creates some challenges for us. But if you have ways to connect with either former employers or other ways to verify that you were employed and had those particular set of expertise, then yes, we're going to use that stuff. If the bridges are so burned down that you don't have any access, that creates some challenges. However, we're going to back channel and work with you as instructors to try and find a way to validate that, because you learned, you grew, you knew what you knew, and we're going to try and count it. We just have to have a way of validating that in some way, shape, or form.
Great. And thank you, Tammy, for jumping in on that as well.
No problem.
All right, so we are going to wrap up. I'm going to turn it over to Susan so that she can do our swag giveaway. Before that, I will wrap up and say, if anything comes up, please, the program directors, the instructors, the alumni on the call, we are all here to support you through the process and make sure you get everything you need to move through 300 and 307 and be successful in the program. So absolutely feel free to reach out with any questions. And Susan, over to you.
Hey, thanks, Dr. McKinley. Thank you all for attending tonight. Free session, it's recorded. We're going to send the link out to you within 24 hours. But before we do that, we have a few fun giveaways for you. You all probably are used to spin the wheel, so I have it on my cell phone. And our first winner, we're going to do 3 door prizes. Kyle B., if you're still on the call, you've won tonight. Our second winner for tonight is going to be Jasmine J. And our third winner tonight, see who that person is. Let me do it one more time. Napoleon. So we have 3 winners for tonight. We'll make sure to get your swag bags out to you tomorrow. I'll be sending you each an email just asking you for your mailing address.
All right. Congratulations to our winners. Thanks again, everybody, for attending and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Looking forward to having you all. We'll see you at graduation. Can't wait to celebrate with you all. It's going to be quick. Let's get you to the finish line.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Amy. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime.